Welcome to the Numbers Game. I'm Jace, and I'm joined once again by the lovely Nick and Marty. How are we, boys?
Well, you're so seductive when you say it that way, Jace. Lovely to be here. And I'll just button up my shirt. I'm feeling very vulnerable at the moment. Feeling good? Feeling good. Nick, how are you, my saucy friend?
I'm going well, mate. And please don't look at me like that ever again. But going well. Looking forward to hearing some gold from the CEO of a billion-dollar company today. And hopefully we'll all come out of it more knowledgeable and better positioned to run our businesses. How are you, Jace?
Mate, really good and excited for this stuff. I mean, I think hearing little nuggets of gold from people that are in different spaces, different industries, but have got themselves to, the highest end of companies, like billion-dollar companies. It's always just great to hear what is their mindset, what are their tips and tricks, and it's also good to relate to them to go, they are just like us. They are humans like us, and they do things that we do. Maybe they're just doing a little bit different, and there's something we can learn from them. So very excited to get into it. We will power through because this one's exciting and punchy. This episode will be brought to you by the lovely team at Future Advisory. There's that word lovely again, Marty. Future Advisory, getting stuck into all things tax planning at the moment with their clients. We can do all different things all year round. We've talked about financial models and budgets, cash flow planning, and even just booking in your tax return to get things sorted and have a team that has your back and keeps you on top of it. futureadvisory.com.au. Now, Marty, you came to us with this one. You must have been reading, or you've just kind of read the back of your Inghams chicken product package and picked up some gold. Why don't you tell us what is on the show today?
Well, I was hooking into a lovely chicken Kiev from Inghams, and I thought, I always think about, product tastes great, but what's the business doing? That's just how my mind works. And Andrew Reeves, there was actually an article in regards to how the best career advice he got in running a billion-dollar company. And I just thought there was some, again, we're all in business. It's just probably we're just at not the billion-dollar stage and like most of our listeners, but there's an absolute gold in that, which applies to all SMEs as well. And one of the first questions was, what's the best career advice you've ever been given? And the answer was, do the job you are doing now in the way the best possible way you can, and that will create future opportunities for you. Don't go hunting promotions or worrying about the next goal. Just be really good in the job you're in, and the rest will take care of itself. And surround yourself with the best possible people you can find. Now, why I like that answer is I've always thought that, like even when I was back at the bank, it was just the key was to follow who were the exceptional operators and how were they doing it, and even to clone their behaviours in order to get the success that they were getting. Like you'd have many people around in the lunchroom, hooking into long lunches, and you could see the personnel that weren't really striving to be better. And even when people think about going into their own businesses, when they have a career somewhere else, they always go, no, I don't really like this. I'm not performing. It'll probably be easier running a business. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. You want to be absolutely shooting the lights out in your career, doing as well as you can where you are. I don't care if you're mopping the floor or you're in a leadership position. It doesn't matter. Just excel at where you're at, and people will notice and you will get opportunity through that. And if you don't, you're doing those behaviors yourself. So if you do transition into a business, you've already disciplined yourself on those great behaviors that you then take into your business. So I really love that comment because I think that is the key to all success, being exceptionally good at what you do, regardless of where you're at.
I absolutely love that. You've just taken me back to being 15, working at McDonald's, and I knew I wanted to be a manager. Like I saw what the managers were doing and went, I want that job one day. But I tell you what, did I mop the floors the best I could mop them in the figure eight that we were taught, the procedures and policies? Did I shine that stainless steel with that white creamy stuff that I had to rub all over them? I bloody did it. And I worked night shifts and all sorts of stuff. And Greg was there as well. He was actually my crew trainer for anyone who wanted a bit of background into where Greggy and I came from. But, and I love that. That is great advice. Doing the job that you're in to the absolute best of your capabilities and smashing it. If you start to then think about the next job that you want to be doing and you're focused on that and you're trying to go, you're not honing the skills and smashing the job you're in because you're worried about the next promotion, it's not the right thing to do. You've got to be really good in the position you're in and think about how that fits in with the organization overall. So I absolutely love that advice. And it took me back to mopping floors at McDonald's and just thought, I'm putting my all into it. I loved it. Hot, fresh bucket of water. Never use the shitty mop bucket that somebody else left behind.
I could see you doing that, but and doing it really well. But that's the thing. You don't. Whenever you hear it, when people go, "I'll be good when I get to that," you go, "They're dead in the water. Like they're dead in the water. I won't be exceptional until I do that job." That's that wrong attitude right there. So I really like that. Nick, have you resonate?
I think it's a generational thing. You're both talking about when you were younger, but the reality is this current generation is different. And, we've got so many challenges in our businesses ongoing that when you've got young people coming at you with, what's my growth trajectory? What have I got to do to be there? Almost the what are you going to do for me kind of thing. And particularly in the last few years where, the labour market is highly stretched and, there's plenty of money going around and it's all about, at times as a business owner, it can feel like it's all about me with employees. And that's really challenging because the reality is you're just trying to get the business to a level where everyone can grow. And if the business grows, then everyone gets more opportunity, right? And as long as people come on the journey with you, the opportunity will arise, but they want to know what that opportunity looks like. So it's a real challenge as a business owner, particularly I think, at our age and our generation, you really got to find that balance. You've got to find that balance of, okay, hang on, no, I am an employer. I have responsibility to help my people grow. And what does that growth trajectory look like? But at the same time, you just want those people to do the right job and do a good job and be with you along the growth. And I know within myself, and you two guys know that if you're going to reward the right people when the opportunity arrives. So it's a real challenge as a business owner trying to have that balance. We have these conversations all the time because you totally understand why people want to know what their growth trajectory is, but all within reason. So that really resonates with me.
Is it like people working with you as opposed to working for you in this, this day and age, or is that the collaboration now?
Well, to me, it should be people working with you, and particularly if you're in a small business like ours. And ours is a great example because we've got roles that are appearing that never used to be there. So, and we have a high retention rate of staff, and that is because we do promote them when the opportunities arrive. But Marty, the reality is I don't know what those opportunities are even going to look like in the next 12 months. I've got an idea, but they may happen, they may not. As I said, there's roles that are going to exist next year that don't exist now. So for me, it's that with you is key, not for you. We want to keep everyone happy, so we retain everyone. So of course we're going to promote people as we go along. We just need people to have a little bit of faith in us, I guess, and have a look at the history of our business and have a look at how people have grown within in our business and know that could be you. But at the same time, as a business owner, you've got to make sure that you then tick off what you've got to do and you grow the business and you grow the individual. So, yeah, it's a real challenge. I think it's a bigger challenge now with the current generation than it's ever been.
I like what he said about surrounding yourself with the best possible people you can find. I think our business got to a certain size where we brought in a senior leadership team. And, the people you choose in your senior leadership team are the ones you're surrounding yourself and spending the most time with. And you want to be challenged. You don't want people that are just happy to kind of accept what you say as gospel and go with it. You want people that are surrounding you to challenge you, to embrace different ideas, to push innovation and technology and all these things these days. Otherwise, if you've got people that are just going to say yes and agree with you all the time, you're just going to end up being, a echo chamber of your own thoughts rather than some fresh ideas being brought to the table.
Even from generations, like I'm 51 and I think the majority of the office is probably aged between 25 and 40. But I love that because, again, the 50-year-olds I'm talking to are winding down. They've done that. They've done all that work and looked at all various things in their own generations, and they're still very, very useful and have a lot of wisdom. But to be challenged by the youth coming through, it's invigorating. And I think that's a big decision for me. It keeps me fresh. It keeps me on the ball, and I'm learning. Yeah, I'm learning, and I think as long as you're learning and you're curious and you're executing, it's it's a good life. So I think that's really important to surround yourself with people. The other thing that he said was the moment. Is there a moment in your career that changed everything? And he said just before he took on his first general manager leadership role, he was sent to Harvard Business School for one of their executive education programs. That was an incredible thing to do because it was incredibly stimulatory environment, being taught by some of the best academics in the world and sharing that experience with a whole range of leaders from different countries and different industries. It really opened up my eyes to the possibility of what business leader could look like. And I thought you two would resonate because you're actually going through studies or have been through studies from Harvard, getting yourself ahead in that criteria.
It's a really good point, and not to downplay any of the education, but I think the bigger part of it is the people that you surround yourself with in those groups. And Jason and I have done a leadership course recently, and the content was fantastic. It was actually Harvard content, and it was absolutely brilliant. But you get just as much, if not more, out of the person leading the content. Number one, because they've got the experience, but the other leaders in the room who are all running businesses, they've all gone through, in a lot of cases, similar challenges, but also different challenges. So I think you learn just as much of those people that are sitting in the same room, which I can see why it's stimulating for him, or it was stimulating, because you're like, geez, I'm with all of these fantastic business operators. How good's this? You get new connections. You need to expose yourself to that consistently.
Couldn't agree more. And again, this has taken me back on journeys if I looked at that and said, what was a moment in your career that changed everything? I went and did a course called Business Blueprint when I was like 23, 24 years old as a baby junior accountant. And I was in a room with 300 business owners, all round table kind of format, presenters on stage talking about, how business owners could put in systems and processes and websites and marketing tools and all this stuff. And this was 12 years ago. And it was talking about all these things. And I sat there as an employee in that room, and a lot of the business owners were like, you wouldn't understand the problems we're going through because you're just an employee. And I was like, well, actually, I'd challenge you on that, because here's what I know, and I work as an accountant, and this is how we can help, and blah, blah, blah. But that was a career-changing moment, like sitting there doing that course, because all of the stuff that got filled in my head was one thing. But as you said, Nick, the people that I was surrounded with, I've still got some of those people that were in the room 12 years ago are now clients of mine at Future Advisory. And when we communicate, we're going back to that place of all that content and topics that we learned back then. We're still talking about that today, 12 years later. And I think one of the things that I'll take forward from there is great CEOs and great employees and great business owners will embrace continuous learning. You are never done learning. It's never over. So being curious and having a lifelong learning craving, you want to stay up to date. You want to read new books. You want to check out, current information and topics and market trends. You've got to be across all this. And you can never just turn a blind eye to these things, because the business landscape is forever changing. And without reading and staying on top of trends or reading, help books and whatever else, you can't get there. So this is also a thing that I look at with employees that we hire. Do they read? Are they interested in learning? Are they continually learning themselves outside of work? Or are they coming in, punching a 9 to 5 clock and hoping that they're going to get all of the learning on the job? Because if you're not doing it yourself at home, you're not going to get ahead in your career to the point where, let's say, Andrew Reeves got to as $1 billion CEO.
What I really liked, the word you said there, which is something that I've been thinking about, is trends. It's not just about educating yourself to be better at what you do or advancing your own skill set. I think for us, particularly in the last couple of years, we need to be across the trends and what's happening in the wider market, what's happening with other industries. So I think as a leader, that's one of your key responsibilities, to understand economics and understand what's happening in the world and how those trends could impact your business. If you're not doing that through reading, education, catching up with other people, then you're not doing your job as a leader, in my opinion. So I really like the fact that you said trends, because I think people think about education as, oh, you're going to teach me something and I might not know about how to do my job. But what you don't know what you don't know. So what don't you know about other industries, about some tech that's coming, AI?
And it's not possible to do that all within business hours. And I'm not saying you should spend countless hours outside of your 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are, but being curious, being hungry to learn. You can do that outside of work and not treat it as a chore, like, oh, I've got to learn more because of my job. Just literally being curious and feeding yourself some information rather than the extra hour of scrolling on Facebook or Instagram.
What's a brilliant thing? This is why I love working with you gents, because you are constantly on that journey of learning, and you realise the more you learn, the more you don't know too, which is another thing as you get older. So there's a constant hunger for getting more. But what you said on trends is the key. Like I don't educate myself on the book smarts in regards to what corporate business looks like, or what's the the rote pathway most people go. But I look at the trends that I experience in business, and I'll educate based on wanting to know more. So for instance, I could never understand as a leader why I could see potential in someone and then they weren't performing up to that standard. So I had to understand people drivers, and I did courses in systems of thinking with spiral dynamics and how models worked in different countries and corporations. So I could get an understanding as to what's the gap that was the gap between my assumption on someone and actually the performance of someone. And I realised in my early 30s that that's a significant gap, and that gap costs a lot of money when you don't get it right. Now, I still don't always get it right, but I have a formula at least to go, okay, if this person's doing this, this, and this, ultimately they might not get there. If they're doing this, this, and this, there's a chance they should get there. And that's all based on studies in various different corporations, but it's outside the normal parameters of learning. So I've done that for myself, either in personal development or business development, and I've always really enjoyed that because it's been relevant to my learning in real time in business as to me seeking that education piece or the books I read, it's in real time, and I love that. It feels more dynamic. I feel like I'm in the game, and that's helped me a lot particularly over my 30s and 40s. So yeah, I'd encourage that viewpoint as well.
Good.
The next one I'll jump to is Nick will like this one. Nick,
I saw that coming.
You both are very good at this, much better than I am. Do you have a morning ritual or exercise routine? He goes, yes, I do. I do lap swimming or a gym workout. Swimming is great physical exercise because it's quite demanding. It's also just great to get the stress to leave and just let your mind wander. It's either done very early in the morning or in the middle of the day. Now, gents, I'll open the floor because you guys are fantastic at this.
Oh, Nico, you go, the swimming man.
Oh, well, yeah, I am a swimming man, but I've only, I want to say recently, probably only discovered swimming in the last 18 months. And before I go into that, I think what kind of resonates with all good leaders is that morning ritual. Doesn't matter who you talk to, whether they're leading, in a finance industry or manufacturing or whatever. It's the structure around the morning ritual that seems to be really common and almost a must, I think, for busy people. Swimming for me has been amazing. When you're lap swimming, you're staring at a black line. Your mind does wander, but it's a form of meditation, right? Because these things are going through your head. And Jace, you run a lot, so it'd be the same as running, where you're just thinking about things coming in, digesting them. Personally, for me, I've gotten into ocean swimming, which has been an absolute next level game changer because your mind doesn't really wander when you're ocean swimming. You're pretty focused on what you're doing, and you're trying to stay on path, and you're making sure that you're not blowing yourself up, and you're going to have enough energy to get to where you go because it's not like swimming a lap. So yeah, it's whatever it is, whether it's swimming or running. I think having something where you can just have time to yourself. Even when I used to run, a lot of the times I wouldn't use I wouldn't put music in because I actually wanted the thoughts to go through my head. It was a way to clear the mind. So, yeah, I can definitely attest to that. And it just sets you up for the day. You come in, you feel better. We've spoken about this numerous times on the podcast. But, the big thing for me is that routine, and it just keeps on coming forward no matter who you talk to. who's a leader, they've all got a routine. It might not always be exercise. It might be meditation, reading, whatever it might be, but that routine is seems to be imperative.
That question to, the top 100 CEOs in the country, do you have a morning ritual or exercise routine? 100 out of 100 are going to have a ritual or an exercise routine, and most of it's probably going to start at some point in the morning. So bit the same. Got to do it, got to clear the head, got to have something done in the morning so that I start the day feeling ready just to tackle anything that flows my way. And, Nick and I are just two guys that are having a crack, right? We're not necessarily these, so anyone out there can implement this stuff in their lives and see the difference. And I think one of the most common things that any top CEO, when they're interviewed, they go on about a work-life balance, and having the exercise routine or the morning ritual is part of that work-life balance.
It's discipline too, right? Like it's that's the word I keep coming back to. I know, Marty, you've mentioned accountability in the notes, and it's accountability, it's discipline. If you're a disciplined person, then and you're a leader, then people around you will see that. But how can you expect people around you to be disciplined or accountable if you're not disciplined or accountable yourself? And that doesn't mean you're working 12 hours a day. Like if the sun's shining, you need to go for a walk to clear your head. Then as a leader, you do that. But what are the disciplinary actions that you're doing? And for me, if you're a leader and you're not disciplined, then it can all unravel pretty quickly.
Yeah, and if you're struggling, get a dog, because you walk it every morning as well to mix in with your study. So it's a good one. But I used to 30s and 40s, always gym, 5:30 in the morning. That was my routine. So it's a good thing to do. I'll move on to the next question, which I think you'll enjoy. What's the most important thing you look for when you're hiring someone? So for this gent, particularly in senior people, their comfort with being accountable is the most important thing to me. I think that's one of the differentiators of really good and effective leaders who are able to live up to their commitments. Such a good response. I love that response.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And from personal experience, we've got quite a young team. We've been punching above our weight for years. We've grown quite substantially, and we implemented some technology, basically dashboards that showed live figures day to day of their billing, like the team's billing targets versus their monthly goals. A bunch of other stuff as well, but a lot of the time, for a business to be successful, one of the clear things that we talked about in a previous episode, is that we need to hit our billing targets to be able to pay the bills, pay rent, pay wages, whatnot. So we focused on that a lot. But when we implemented this for the first time and started, talking about it a lot, it was a lot of what's the word, like being accountable and owning those figures and knowing what your targets were and going for them. It caused a bit of unrest at first, and we're a bit of education, and we've come to the other side of that. And now my team members that are thriving, they are so accountable to their numbers. They plan in advance. They know what work they're working on for the whole month. They know what jobs they're doing this week, this day, this hour to hit their targets and hit what they're going to achieve. And I can see these team members becoming the next senior leaders of our organization. And the other ones that are already in those senior leadership positions, the ones that are thriving, they're doing this every day. And it's not the be all and end all, it's part of their job, but being accountable and, being able to go, you know what, I'm going to own that, and step up, and accountability is fantastic. And that's a key. So
brilliant.
You see that too, Nick?
Yeah, definitely. Accountability, and then, work ethic's the other one, it's, walk the talk, I guess, is the big thing. And then again, it comes back to what we were talking about before, disciplined. If you're disciplined, then that to me is accountability as well. So, but yeah, work ethic, I think Marty and I were talking the other day. We listened to a podcast on Craig Hutchison. So the guy everyone knows who Hutchie is, or everyone in Melbourne will know who Hutchie is. And I didn't understand how successful he actually was until I listened to this podcast. He was on the Howard Games with Mark Howard, and he now runs and owns SEN. I think he said they've got about 60 radio stations and they turn over $100 million. I think,
yeah,
Marty,
100 mil.
What they said. But he just came back to work ethic, and he said, and he's obviously downplaying his own talents. He's obviously highly skilled and talented, but work ethic was all he had to hang his hat on. So something that he said that resonated with me, that is that when he gets young people in, it's work ethic, because that's what he can relate to. There's a lot of things that you can overcome with work ethic. Work ethic to me then ties back to discipline, which then ties back to accountability. So I think if you've got those three things nailed, can't go wrong.
Great podcast, Perfect. That one. And he said in regards to people like following up sales calls, he goes, when you ring someone once, they'll generally hang up on you. If you ring someone twice, you're annoying. If you ring someone 3 times, same. By the time you get to the 6th or 7th call, people are going, geez, this bloke won't let up, or this person won't let up. I have to let them in the door. And it was just that work ethic and, that hunger to find a way is brilliant. And there's a lot of other great stories in that podcast, but worth a listen to. I really enjoyed it. The last question, what's the secret to good leadership? 2 things I think are really, really crucial. One is that issue of personal accountability, and it's really taking that seriously so people can have trust and confidence in the commitments you make. The second thing is to surround yourself with the best people possible you can find and really work on building outstanding teams. So again, we've covered probably a lot in the previous questions, but again, when someone's accountable to their performance, building great teams and we've found that, on a smaller scale, obviously to Inghams, but when you have high performers within a team, they just strive together and they learn from each other almost to the point where people think they're cheating the system because they're learning so much off great performers and they're invigorated by their teams. And that's a wonderful, wonderful environment to be a part of because you just find levels of performance you didn't even know existed in yourself because you're learning in real time off what people are doing to be successful in their roles. So, I really enjoyed that too.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, my brain's kind of taking me and comparing to things, but just in that answer where it talked about personal accountability and commitments and then surrounding yourself with the best possible people, I just went, this podcast, we're at maybe I think 106 episodes. We're personally accountable. We get in, we get it done. We're not making excuses for putting hours into pre-recording and podcast episodes. And we've surrounded ourselves with people that are, working on doing the same thing. So, that was what popped into my head. So it's great advice. I mean, and the secret to good leadership, it's, so many other CEOs and so many other people might have answered that question with strong communication skills or, best leadership qualities, embracing diversity, all these different things. But that's just really simple answers which are relatable. So I love that by Andrew Reeves. It's, Inghams chicken. What a guy.
Fantastic. Some great gold there. If you'd like any financial advice, please feel free to reach out. We're here to help. Future Advisory, Innovate. We're going all in to serve. So until next time, thank you, gents. And thank you, audience, for listening in. Game over.